We're back. It's the Horns Up Talking Texas podcast. Fisher DeSopolis, DJ Nikki, Snacks, Kreider. It was a really good fourth quarter, gentlemen, on offense at least. Outside of that, interestingly, I felt Wyoming had a pretty good game plan for us. First of all, they're a better team than a lot of people gave them credit for. They did beat Texas Tech. They were 2-0 coming into our house. They did a good job of keeping the ball out of Quinn's hands. Our defense, by and large, again, had a really nice game, but they did a really good job of keeping the ball out of Quinn's hands. And the offense was out of rhythm, and it took them a while to get going. Now, when they got going, they were electric. Couple deep balls, couple big runs. Our highest rated player on Pro Football Focus, Jonathan Brooks, who has emerged as our RB1 in an epic fashion. And then our defense, when the offense got cooking, our defense made a big play and they got a pick six, and that's great complimentary football. Outside maybe of, us having a very slow start in offense, what were some of your guys' takeaways from the matchup against Wyoming in week 3?
Well, piling it on is one thing, right? Where you score and then you come back and score right away again, and then for a third time in the fourth quarter, and something that we did last week against Bama as well. It seems like we're a fourth quarter team this year. It's really good to see that they can score late. You would like to see them get a little bit of a faster start, but I think one of the biggest things that we were looking for, or specifically I was looking for when we previewed the show with Quan, is we want a 100-yard rusher. And you'd mentioned it. Jonathan Brooks came out swinging and, got his 100-yard piece, 164. Really big run that set us up for a nice Quinn Ewers touchdown. But we need a guy like that who can, demand the rock and be an unstoppable force if we're going to head into Big 12 play and dominate.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Toss?
Yeah, and I think, worth noting that Brooks, he had the 21 carries. A lot of that had to do with Sed B being banged up still, right? And not playing in this game. And I expect that it'll be a committee once he comes back, but it was good to see JB take that load on as kind of our RB1 and do something with it. I thought that while I agree with your statement in the second half, Josh, where they really did a good job in the third quarter, especially taking the ball out of Quinn Ewers' hands. They ate up almost 10 minutes on that drive in the third quarter, and we didn't get the ball until the very end of it. Mm-hmm. And they were efficient. They ended up with a field goal to tie the game at 10-10. I felt like we were taking the ball out of our own hands in the first half. Jonathan Brooks he had 21 carries on the day. He had 8 carries in the first half. I thought we were looking to throw early and often too much in the first half instead of relying on our big boys up front to, get 5 yards, 7 yards, running between the tackles. Brooks obviously has the speed to break runs out on the outside, as he did on that 50-yard run. But I didn't feel like we asserted ourselves. We didn't show ourselves to be the more dominant team. And in a game where they are rolling out their backup QB, and we don't even know that until 10 minutes before. I expect us to win that first half and then coast the rest of the game. Mm-hmm. It's awesome that we're averaging in the last 2 games 21 points in the fourth quarter. If you take out that Rice game, which we were well up going into that fourth quarter at that time, we'd probably be averaging 21 points in the fourth quarter across the entire year. I didn't see enough from an execution standpoint in the first half to leave me with a really, really good taste in my mouth after that game. And I think that there are still a lot of things that we need to tighten up before we head to Waco, for conference play starting up, because something that we've said for the last 2 years, like, you got to play a complete game. And if you are playing, while this Wyoming team they were better than we thought, and for having a backup quarterback in, I thought that they were very competent. They stuck to their game plan. They stuck to their guns. Whaley was able to, he's a new transfer from Northern Illinois. He broke out that big run at the beginning. I'm not mad about that because he found the hole. He's a good player. He was on the Doak, I think the preseason Doak list prior or in 2022. Mm-hmm. So he's a talented running back, and that happens. They get that inside zone run and they beat the safeties. Like, you're going to give up big plays like that. Every team is, right? But how you bounce back from that, I think, was the most impressive thing from PK's defense and our players. I thought our defensive line stepped up. I thought Barron Sorrell had an excellent game stopping the run, and obviously had a crucial sack when they were in the red zone in the second half. But I just, I didn't see enough from our team to say, okay, we're the number 3 team in the nation. We deserve that. Not yet. Not yet, in my opinion.
Well, I want to say this. Yeah, for years past, yes. But I don't think I've seen enough from I haven't really seen enough from anybody this year that I'm like, wow, this team is a real juggernaut. Like, just when we thought Florida State was that team, they barely escaped Boston College, who is a middling ACC team. Georgia barely. I know South Carolina's a tough test, but they barely escaped South Carolina. Like, I need to see. I know Washington went in and really beat the crap out of Michigan State, but they're like in turmoil. I need to see somebody assert themselves. I'm still not. You guys know I root for Ohio State, so I've watched those games too. And
I feel like Michigan has, but their opponents are just
their opponents, yeah. So like they're like a NA, like them and Ohio State. I know Ohio State beat Indiana, and now they kick the crap out of Western Kentucky. But they have a huge test. Like, we're gonna really see a lot this weekend. Like, Ohio State goes to Notre Dame, another team that's been red hot, and Sam Hartman's been the most underrated player in the country. Like, that's a really massive game for everything going forward. Look, it's the Alabama hangover. People were saying. Everyone was riding high. I think they had the players only meeting, which is great, but still, it's like you go to a place like Tuscaloosa where the environment's crazy and fun, and you go in, and when everyone thinks you can't win, you're the underdog, and you beat them the year before you go to the SEC. It really takes their emotions through the roof and your adrenaline through the roof. So I think they were a bit hungover through the first half, and I think that once they settled in, they look like the number 3 team in the nation to me. We have a lot of guys on defense that could really be pros. And I know we talk about Barron Sorrell, we talk about Byron Murphy, who I would love. The thing about Sweat and Murphy is I actually don't think, and you brought it up like that we got gashed a little bit up the middle. For such big guys and such guys who are so good at putting pressure on the quarterback on the pass rush, I would love to see them defend the run up the middle a bit better. They're 300-pound guys. Like, I would love to see us stop the run up the middle. But we have a great defensive line that we talk about incessantly with Sorrell, Murphy, Sweat, and the young guys in Hill and Burke. But our defensive backfield's filled with studs, man. Barron is a real player. Thompson is a real player. Crawford, he may not be a pro's pro, but you see him all over the field. And like, we had, how many guys did we play 30 plus snaps, 20 plus snaps? 19 guys played 20 plus snaps this week. And Finkley was 19 snaps. So Muhammad's getting in there. Hill, both freshmen are getting in there. Like, Gavin Holmes, the corner that we got from Wake Forest, is getting involved, which is really nice. Catalan, obviously the transfer from Arkansas. You love to see that. I thought Terrence Brooks was pretty active. I would like to see him tackle a little bit better, but other than that, you heard his name called for good. And then we have 2 great linebackers, obviously Gabenda and Ford. So like, I know we put so much emphasis on the offense as a fandom, as a Texas fandom, because we have Cohen, we have Worthy, who, I would loved how like Nick was away from the TV for a second. And he's like, how'd Worthy score? And we were like, and I could just text you the OU play. And like, exactly what we were talking about. It's like so epic. Like, we have these offensive weapons, but I really think what's going to set us apart, and hopefully I'm crossing my fingers that sets us apart, is the defense. PK has really stepped up. Coach Bo has stepped up massively. Like, we have some guys all of a sudden in not outside of Sark and the coaching staff that I'm hoping we could hang on to for a lot longer than I'm anticipating. Choice, Bo, PK. Like, look, man, if PK continues to pitch a really good year as a defensive coordinator, he may get a shot somewhere. Like, he really might, man. If I were him, I'd probably want to go to the SEC and try and test my luck and try to up my resume a notch higher. Like, if he could shut down some SEC teams. But I'm really impressed with what the defense has shown me through the first 3 games.
Yeah, I mean, coaches, when they have success for a team, they're all going to get opportunities elsewhere, whether that be, the offensive assistants moving up to being a coordinator somewhere, or the same thing on defense, or the coordinators moving up to being a head coach somewhere. So, I mean, obviously that's good for your program, because like, it shows that you're a breeding ground for good coaches, and at the same time you're having success. I mean, look at the Saban coaching tree. Like, so many guys have come out there. So it'd be nice to have those guys, but at the same time, it's better to win.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, look, and you know what though? Like, the thing about the Saban coaching tree, look who was involved in the Saban coaching tree. Bill O'Brien, Sark, Lane Kiffin, guys looking for second chances. So great coaches who had their first go and they kind of come back to the quote unquote doghouse of Alabama, rebuild their resume up a little bit, learn under Saban, get to coach some really great players and learn from the great players. And then they move on to programs like Ole Miss, like offensive coordinator for the Patriots. And like, if you look at the Patriots offense, like I know I'm a Pats fan. We've lost 2 really close games, but Mac Jones looks way better this year than he did last year. That I can say firsthand. Totally. And yeah, I mean, I really am. I'm impressed. I know, like, as the number 3 team and what we've seen in the past with the Ohio States, the Michigans, the Georgias, and of course the Alabamas, like whoever the number 3 team was absolutely murking people. I just think there's a lot of parity. And I think Wyoming has like good pros. Like they have guys that like are pros, like and before you go to like the best defender that I've seen on USC is Solomon Byrd. He's been an animal, transferred from Wyoming. You know what I'm saying? Like they breed good players. So I think they were a better opponent than people think. Same with Rice.
Yeah, I think I don't want to provide confusion here. Like I'm not caught up on the number 3 ranking because the number 3 ranking is not important, to be honest. Like what's important is what we do on the football field.
Sure.
Rankings don't matter. They only matter at the end. And as long as you win all of our games, we've talked about this endless times. Like we're the University of Texas. We're ranked number 3 partially, even with the existing parity, because we are the University of Texas, right? We get that credibility because of our university being a blue blood, Sarkeesian, our recruits, yada, yada, yada. But what matters is what happens on the field. And that's what left a bit of a sour taste in my mouth, at least from the first half. And part of that is recognizing, yes, because we are playing a backup QB, what does that game look like if we're playing their starting QB, right? We're giving credit to Wyoming and we should. Our defense probably doesn't have as much gas left in the tank in the second half if they have their starting QB in the first half, because they're taking more advantages of those opportunities that we gave them by giving them the ball, by going 3 and out, by not extending drives, by being inefficient on offense. And when we play Baylor and we play other teams in the Big 12, they won't give us those opportunities. So that's what I'm looking at. And it was great to see us convert on 4th down with Savion Red. We liked that package. It worked well. Nick, he made a note when we were talking about it that like it didn't even look like the handoff was a threat. He was going to take that upfield kind of QB blast every single time anyway. And
he wasn't even like faking it correctly. Like he was just like faking it. Like the running back was already gone. And it's like, dude, just run straight.
Go.
Like you're wasting time and like you're not fooling anyone.
Yeah. And it's, I mean, I'm nitpicking here, right? But I do think that like Quinn going 11 for 21 is inexcusable. You know, like going forward, like Jatavian Sanders not having a catch is inexcusable in my mind.
Horrible.
We have we talked about it with Quan. We have some of the best weapons in college football, but if we can't get them the ball, they can't make plays in space. And I love to see Jonathan Brooks. Nick and I both asked for that to happen. I think I asked for 200 plus yards rushing. We didn't get that, but we got close to it. I loved seeing Quinn get dirty in the red zone and tucking it, taking a hit and getting into the end zone. More importantly, I like that he made the right read on the edge rusher there, because if he had given the ball to Brooks on that play, Brooks would have been tackled and we wouldn't have gotten into the end zone. It's tightening screws. It's week 3, right? There's always going to be things that you can get better at. I love that defensively, like they had been running that short out. They were not letting their backup QB throw up the field. They had been running that short out, to the sideline again and again and again. And finally we make the right read. We jump the route and we take it for 6, right? Like I love that kind of growth and progression over the course of the game.
Good adjustment from veteran players, man.
Yeah. So I think, you know, there's a lot of good to take away from this game, but just being efficient at home in the first half is something that I really wanted us to see, because I wanted us to protect our house. You know, I wanted us to come home from Alabama and protect our house, and we'll have other opportunities to do that. But yeah, I mean, it's a good win, and I love that we're composed in the fourth quarter and able to bounce back, because that's something that we haven't seen. And so the fact that we keep doing that week in, week out is that gives me some peace of mind for sure.
You mentioned Quinn, you know, and throwing 11 for 21 and not getting JT the ball. I feel like sometimes we get stuck in this pattern of like Quinn's forcing it and just like needs to get a completion out there, and like he misses, you know, 3-4 throws in a row, and then we go 3 and out. And this is kind of silly, but I'd kind of like for us to do like the whole Madden approach when you're playing Madden and like you want to like get your guy catches, and so you'll throw them like a quick little slant or you'll throw them like a little bubble screen just to get them involved, right? Like get JT the ball any way possible. Let him get a catch, let him get some momentum behind him, right? And let Quinn make a completion. That'll do something for his psyche. That'll do something for his confidence, right? Okay, I completed a pass here. I don't have to go and force the ball down the field. My guy made a play. I mean, we saw it happen with Worthy. Why not do it with Jatavian Sanders? Why not do it with Jordan Whittington? I mean, like, there's ways to get these guys involved rather than just letting them run down field and, make Quinn throw a 15-yard throw. Like, let's see what they can do in open space as well, especially against a team like Wyoming or Rice. I mean, Bama is a little bit more defensively talented, but I just think that that's a smarter game plan if your quarterback has been ineffective and he's thrown for 50% of his passes and missing them. So that's the one thing on that. And then on the defensive side of the ball that I just want to mention really quickly, it's like,
Yeah, you're good.
we're saying that like this game was closer than everyone thought it was. Obviously, like we knew how it was. We pulled away in the fourth quarter, scored 21 points. But like besides one big run, if that big run doesn't happen, they're scoring 3 points this game. Same thing with Rice. Like,
which is why I mentioned like I'm not worried about the big run because there are players in college football. All these guys are really talented. They all
they're Division I athletes.
Yeah, like I'm not mad about that play at all. Even when it happened, I wasn't mad about it. I was like, look, that happens.
Right, exactly. And that's just college football. Like that'll happen anywhere at any level. Like, I don't care if you're playing a Division II school, like that could happen. There's a guy who has burners that can just go out and outrun everybody. But ultimately, like we look at national champions year in and year out, and it's always built on a great defense. I mean, like, of course, there's offensive stars, there's studs, there's Heisman Trophy winners, there's first-round draft picks, but you have to have a good defense. And so I'm very confident in our foundation of this defense to really take us far, keep us in games, and until we figure out the offensive struggles, because I do think there's still a lot of offensive struggles, our defense can keep us, kind of grounded in these games. And I'm not gonna anticipate any of our games getting out of hand where like this team is up on us by 21 points and like we need to have a massive comeback, which I still think it's capable of doing. Like our offense can do that, but I just don't think it's ever going to get to the point where our defense is going to put us in that bind.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the time of possession battle, they won. And I think, again, like credit to their coaching staff. They came in with a game plan. They executed it. What they wanted to do was keep the ball out of our hands as much as possible. And again, for me, the main takeaway is don't lean into their game plan if we don't have to, right? Like get Jonathan Brooks, Jatavian Sanders the ball in the first half, more opportunities. It's okay to be simple sometimes. Like the simplicity will open up the complex. And I thought we got a little too complex with the guys in motion, 3 passes in a row in the first half, where when you're a better football team, and I think a part of this game is just like at a certain point, our talent catches up with us and like they can't match it. Right. And I think that's why in the fourth quarter, we're able to kind of take that step forward. I'd love for us to kind of, again, just assert ourselves and dominate at the beginning of the game. And then we go into the bag, right? Then we get into the tricks. Then we show them all the different colors of the rainbow that we can kind of tap into. And yeah, I mean, look, this is going to be a fun game against Baylor. And we're going to talk about it with Quan later this week, but
not an easy one. Their coach is a great defensive guy. I mean, I think they're struggling offensively. And I thought, Nick, what you said was interesting about Jatavian. Sorry to cut you, T, but I just didn't want to lose that point.
Yeah.
When we hit Jatavian on screens, we hit him on short throws, and we did it against Bama. Like that's what we did a lot of the time. So it's not like it's like we do that in Madden, but they do that across any level of football. If your guy's not getting the ball, you just get him the ball quickly and get it in his hands and see what happens. And we did that with Xavier Worthy at the end of the game, and look what happened. He took it up the sideline and scored and burned everybody. So I think he does get in a habit sometimes of forcing it, but I think just getting the ball into the playmaker's hand and trusting our playmakers is just very beneficial. It's just so beneficial to that.
And some of the best athletes in college football. Like these guys are freaks. Just let them do their thing, like let them make one missed tackle and see how many yards it gets them.
Yeah, we need to have blinders on this week because we play, like we're saying, we're going to cover, like you're saying, T, we're going to cover Baylor with Quan, and we know it's a big game for him, right? Being from the area. It's kind of like Quan's rivalry game. His brother played there, I believe, so it's like kind of Quan's rivalry game. So it's gonna be fun to cover that with him, but it's also gonna be very telling in this college football slate. We're gonna see a lot. We're gonna learn a lot about a lot of teams. I think I just wanted to run it through with you guys and our listeners out here so they can see what's going on this week. Obviously, one of the most anticipated matchups is Colorado versus Oregon. Colorado and Dion, so much hype in the nation. They ran into kind of a tough matchup against Colorado State. Terrible cheap shot against Travis Hunter. He's going to be out for a few weeks now, which is very unfortunate. But they go to Eugene. Rutgers is undefeated. They go to Michigan. Florida State goes to Clemson. OU travels to undefeated Cincinnati. Auburn at A&M. And these aren't even ranked matchups. UCLA, Utah, both undefeated. Ole Miss goes to Bama. Miami goes to Temple, which could be a trap game. And there was Oregon State, Washington State, both undefeated. Obviously, we have Baylor, like I mentioned before, Ohio State and Notre Dame. And then Iowa goes to Penn State. Also, both those teams are undefeated. UNC to Pitt, they've been underwhelming. There's a lot of big games this week. They're going to tell us a lot. As we get into conference play, they're going to tell us a lot about these teams. We're going to learn a lot about these teams. And I think the best thing we could do is have our blinders on. You know what I'm saying? I like a championship team is not going to worry about things they can't control. We can't control if Michigan, Georgia, US. We can't control if they run the table. We can't control if Florida State runs the table. We have no effect on that game. So keeping our blinders on, but also as fans and analysts, watching these games, these are going to be very telling games. We're going to learn. I think a lot of us think that Colorado is Toss. You texted in some group chat. We're in a million group chats together. I think you texted that you think Colorado is going to get beat pretty handily by Oregon.
I don't know about beat. They have two tough games in a row, like you said. A lot of teams now face the music just from a challenge standpoint, right?
Mm-hmm.
They get the Ducks and then they get USC the following week, and it was a really fun game to watch, that Colorado State game. If Colorado State, cuts their penalties in half, they win that game. So that's kind of my takeaway, is that that matters. The little things matter. And credit to Dion and his squad for knowing that they were going into a rivalry game and keeping their composure for the most part. I mean, they had some penalties too, but not as many as Colorado State. I mean, I think they ended up with 18 penalties that game or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And just to quickly bring it back to our game, we had more penalties this game than the Wyoming Cowboys. So again, credit to their coaching staff for coaching a really clean game. The one thing I'll mention about our game, one last thing before we get back to your topic, Josh, is that Sanborn had a really good game and he's having a really good season. He had 3 punts and he's averaging 48, I think, yards per punt. Talking about potential pros, right? We've had guys that in the punting and kicking positions obviously get to the pros and have successful careers. So I like to see our special teams continuing to stay consistent and impress.
You cannot tell me that stuff doesn't matter. Field position is everything. Who's leading, by the way, in I mean, with 2 games in the NFL, but average punt yards? Michael Dixon. It really, kicking and punting, it all matters, man. It's so invaluable to have a good kicker, an efficient kicker, and to have a good punter that it can help you control the field. Our defense, them having to march 90 yards, let them try. You know what I'm saying? You pinning them at the 10 versus a weak punt or bad field position, them starting their own 35, it's night and day. They're pretty close. They're pretty close to points. So yeah. I think it's a very important shout out. There's 3 phases of the game for a reason. And I think another thing I wanted to mention, because, about us, and you could probably close it out there unless you guys have some more thoughts. Blue, I appreciate his efforts in the pass block, but we need Said B Jr. back. And I think that's going to make a big difference. That fumble is a big difference. You know what I'm saying? We're not going to have those mistakes. Knock on wood. Said B and now Brooks getting that confidence too. I think that's also a big play in it. These are some of the toughest shoes to fill we've ever seen. Not only was Bijan amazing, but he's also the most hyped guy since we've been there. Realistically, no one's been hyped like Bijan Robinson and Roshan. Just kind of with him. Those are some serious shoes to fill if you're Jonathan Brooks. So I'm not surprised it took him a little bit to get his sea legs under him, But going for 100, like a serious 100 plus, almost 200 yards, all of a sudden, like if we have that in lockstep going forward, that has to open up the play action and that has to open up Quint to succeed in the middle of the field to guys like Jatavian and guys like Whittington, things that we want to see. So I wanted to throw Sed B's absence in there as well.
No, I think it's definitely worth noting, and I think even on the telecast, they mentioned when Byron Murphy caught that big man TD, which I know we were all a fan of, and his celebration dance was incredible. They mentioned, he wants to be the Roshan Johnson for this team. Obviously, not what he did when he got carries and receptions, but as a leader in the locker room. So not only were from the outside looking in, were those two players important, but internally they were very important as well. And I just think the last thing that you mentioned, Michael Dixon, you talk about Bijan, like he is as real as we all knew he was in the pros, and he is making guys miss just in the same way that he did in college football. And it's incredible to watch him do his thing at the professional level. I'm enjoying him play with the Falcons so much, and it's only been 2 weeks.
I mean, I posted on our Horns Up TikTok and he got about 5,000 something views. Like if he should be offensive player of the year, if the Falcons are a top 3, they won't be, but if they are a top 3 team in the NFC by the year's end, it'll be because of him.
They need more snaps. I feel like he's not getting enough snaps yet. I mean,
but he will, I think.
He will. No? I know. I'm saying for him to win offensive player of the year, he needs more volume. And right now they roll out Algier a lot more than he should be playing.
He's but I think 6 yards a carry, bro.
I think at a certain point, like it's going to become undeniable that you have to have him out there more.
He's at 29 carries for 180 yards at 6 yards a carry. Now, this is the most Bijan stat of them all, though. His longest run, 21 yards. So it's not like it's a huge chunk play that like took him over the limit. It's not like it's a huge chunk play that got him there.
But how many of them are like 15, 20 yards? Like how many times?
Or how many times he's got one big play? Or how many times did we see Bijan when it would have been a 3-yard carry for most running backs? He pushed forward, he fall forward, and he gets those extra 3 yards. Like Bijan Robinson is the king of like turning a 3-yard carry or a 2-yard carry into a 4 or 5 or 6 yard carry.
Or a 10-yard carry where he makes 6 guys miss. Like he had a first down run in, I think, the third or fourth quarter yesterday that my jaw was on the floor. It's like, these are the fastest, biggest athletes in the world. And he just made 4 of them miss like nothing. Like he might've just hurt them. He made them miss so bad. Like it was unbelievable. So just, shout out to all of our Longhorns in the pros. We love seeing them do good work. And OBJ went down. So Devin Duvernay is probably going to get even more opportunities. We know that offense is very high powered in Baltimore. And obviously they've got Justin Tucker there too, who missed a 59-yarder. And I was like, I couldn't believe it. He missed a 59-yarder. What's going on? We're so used to that guy. Perfect, that is very true. That is very, very true. So we love our Horns in the pros though. Just wanted to give them a quick shout out.
Bijan, another Bijan Rider thing. He's got 75 receiving yards too and 10 catches.
Very nice.
If Arthur Smith can just go get a quarterback, he's going to be seriously good. Cool. All right. Horns up. See you guys next time. Hopefully get some guests for you guys coming through, which would be great. And we'll see you at the very worst. We'll see you with the Quan Cosby on Wednesday, recording for a Thursday show. Hook 'em, guys. Great win. Glad we're the number 3 team, and glad for the first time since 2012 we are 3-0. One of our buddy George, who does not watch football, was like, wait, we've been saying we were back for all these years and we haven't made it past week 2. I go, yep, we are officially past week 2. We're 3-0 for the first time since 2012. Very exciting stuff. This year's different. Hook 'em horns, guys.